I haven't seen you guys for a long time. Happy Thursday. Heavy metal toxicity is more common than most people realize, and it can quietly impact our energy, mood, and overall well-being. You might be wondering why you feel tired, anxious, or just not yourself. And sometimes the answer lies in what's happening inside our bodies. Our environment, food, and even some products we use can introduce heavy metals into our system. But there's good news. Understanding mineral balance is a powerful way to protect and support our health. Mineral acts as like the body's spark plugs, helping us detox and stay resilient in a world full of hidden toxins. And that's why we're so glad to chat on IG Live today with Nick Dorsey, a chemistry educator. During this live, we're going to discuss how heavy metal impacts mineral balance, the role it has on your mental health, lab testing, and so much more. I saw Nick. Hello, hi Nick.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for taking the time. Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you became a chemistry educator.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of individual things in my story that just all added up to really that culminated into this business. And so I started college. I wanted to be a high school science teacher. And then right after college, I was hired as a chemistry teacher. And I was a little nervous to teach chemistry, actually. Yeah, it was intimidating. And but then I just ended up falling in love with it. I'm like, I just taught the periodic table and intricacies and even quantum mechanics in our high school curriculum. And I had a mentor. He was the next door chemistry teacher to me, and he just really inspired me to see the beauty of the periodic table and to see the interactions that take place and the relationships he just really opened up my eyes to it. And then unfortunately, like a couple of years later, in the middle of my career, he ended up passing away, and so it kind of sent me down into this little path of like, what do I do? Like, how do I process all this? Like, very kind of deeper level kind of stuff. In his passing ended up coming like a lot of life from this. And in hindsight, I'm like, everything makes sense. And so from that, like, I'm here to teach the periodic table and how it can be actually useful, because that was a big thing when I was a teacher. Like, when am I ever going to use the periodic table? And students, I'm like, guys, I don't know. Like, maybe not. But and then once I got my master's degree in biochemistry, and that's what Brian, my mentor, he ended up pushing me into that. And so then the whole world kind of opened up. And so then I was able to take that question that students had of, when am I ever going to use this? And my answer being, I don't really know. Like, unless you go on to college to study chemistry or something. Um, but a lot of my students weren't going to college, so it really, like, it hurt me the most to say that kind of stuff. And then so then once all this, my career took place, and then ended up realizing how powerful this stuff really is. It's everything in our lives. So nutrition and toxins and I mean, those are really the big two categories of nutrition and toxins. But like biochemistry, like, it's all the periodic table. And so the whole world opened up to me after that. And so now that's what I've dedicated my life to.
That's amazing. I feel like everything is chemistry. It just people don't really realize everything is chemistry. You know, like your food interact with your like whatever other functions you have, your hormones, everything is like chemistry. And I
Yeah.
have to confess, like biochemistry is like the only class I failed at least once in college. It's so hard.
Yeah.
But that's I feel like that's why we need people like you to actually explain to like dim it down, like actually give examples, analogies, so then people can understand the powerful, how powerful it is and how important it is.
Yeah, really. And then once I started bringing that stuff in the classroom, students were lighting up with questions. It was the most engaged they've ever been. Like, this is awesome. And then I started to realize, like, wait, I don't need to just teach this kind of stuff. I can actually help people, like, heal. and to help them with their diet and nutrition and understanding their own biochemistry, because everyone's unique. Everyone has unique biochemistry, and so then that's why I started this business, is to run functional labs, which is different than conventional labs, looking at that person's individual biochemistry to see where are the very specific places that we can use really targeted techniques and protocols and food and nutrition and supplementation and all these variety of things to help people heal. Like that's the ultimate goal. Not I'm done with teaching just to teach to the test. Now I want to help people heal. So
Yeah.
here
Well,
we are.
knowledge first step and then action, the second step. I love it.
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah. Fun path.
You are a functional chemistry specialist. So like, people understand chemistry, but what is functional chemistry?
Yeah, it's I can describe it succinctly as just chemistry that works. It is chemistry that looks at the function of our cells and into the depths of like the mitochondria and the microbiome. I have these four pillars of health that I've come up with. Oh, my bad, sorry. And so those are like the layers of biology. As I've studied what nature's like how it actually operates, by like when Brian passed away, I couldn't like I just had to read PubMed articles. Like that's how I kind of distracted myself in a way of in trying to make sense of anything, was to go to PubMed. And it's how I ended, great distraction, really, one of the healthier ones that I could do. And so yeah, it's all, everything is chemistry, and then even below that too, and then below that's like physics, and then quantum mechanics, and what's going on there with like frequencies and radiation and electromagnetic frequencies and light and artificial light. And so like diving into like that, those kind of ideas as well, for how important it is to the microbiome receiving light energy. The mitochondria, that's like one of their big purposes, is to interpret the light energy of the environment. And as well as like when you think about like food molecules, every single nutritious molecule is made up of light energy that's stored between those chemical bonds. And so it's light energy, but it's stored, and so it's still light energy though, and that's what our mitochondria are really interacting with. And then using the heavy metals and minerals, and it's all connected. I love it. It's incredible.
So you kind of answered my next question. So I was going to ask you, how can functional chemistry be beneficial for helping with gut issues?
Yeah, specifically with gut issues. So that's what I've chosen to kind of target my the business, really, instead of just saying, oh, we can help out everything. It's like I want to
Mhm,
target gut stuff, because that was some of my issues that I faced when,
mhm.
especially growing up and in college, low income and not that nutritious of food. And so then with the gut specifically, it's such an interesting little tiny single cell lining. Like that, those are the human cells, the epithelial cells that line our gut, all the way from, from top to bottom. And it's those cells that really intrigued me, because then when we have all these toxicities in a variety of different ways, that lining is the interface between yourself, like the human, and the external environment. Like that's the main barrier right there, threat from top to bottom. And so when we start to see that those cells are really impacted, then that's when a lot of other systems can start to be impacted as well. Like that's kind of the start of things. And Socrates, I think he mentioned something about how
Mhm,
disease starts in the gut, and that's
mhm.
that's where you're like, yeah, it starts there, but it doesn't end there. And so then we end up with cells that don't have the correct structure. So then they don't have the correct relationship to the next door cell, because it's only one cell thick. Like that's the crazy part. It's designed that way specifically, but it's fascinating. And so when we have that one cell thick lining, that it is so crucial that the structure and function of those cells are working properly, and that they're in relationship with each other and in communication. And so I just see the gut as like let's target that, because then when we can repair that, a lot of other things are gonna, like, nutrients are gonna be absorbed a lot easier and transported easier, and toxins are gonna stay in the colon and excreted. Like that's the hope. and through other ways too. And so it's all connected and it all comes back to the gut. And like I said, personally as well. So yeah.
And today we're trying to focus on heavy metals and how mineral balancing can help. So could you explain for those who are like unaware what heavy metals are and where do we find them and why are they are like concerning?
Yeah, so we'll kind of zoom out a little bit and looking at I don't have a periodic table in front of me, but if you look at a periodic table, most people have seen it at least. And so us humans, we tend to categorize things like heavy metals versus minerals, but the body doesn't really interpret them as that. It interprets them more as like they're all atoms. They're all elements on the periodic table with a specific number of neutrons, protons, and electron, like the ratio of those subatomic particles. And so then when we're looking at like how these minerals, because it's that balancing sort of act. So when we're looking at the function of minerals, sometimes heavy metals can do similar things for our cells. Um, and so, but then that's where the toxicity is that these heavy metals, which are mostly like aluminum, which actually aluminum is not really that heavy. It's got an atomic mass of 27. Like it's one of the lightest heavy metals, but we just tend to associate like the word heavy metal with toxic and toxicity and minerals with nutrition. And but really they're just all atoms. And so when they have like a different number of protons and electrons, it causes charge to occur, positive protons, negative electrons. And so, an aluminum atom having a +3 charge when it wants to give up its valence electrons, diving into the details and esoteric details of the periodic table. But it can behave relatively similar to like an iron atom that also has a 3+ charge. It's got a handful more protons, neutrons, and electrons, but the charge is the same. And so when we have this different nucleus, but the same charge, there's similar interactions that can happen with heavy metals as minerals, like with our enzymes. Like everyone kind of knows, or at least a handful of people know how an iron atom sits in the middle of that hemoglobin molecule. And so that's what allows for the oxygen to bind to that iron atom and then get transported to wherever it needs to go. And that iron atom is crucial. And it's the charge of that iron atom that causes the oxygen to bond to it. And so what can happen when we have this heavy metal toxicity is that, well, maybe instead of an iron, maybe it's an aluminum. The body's still using it. It's not seeing it as toxic. It's just seeing it as like, well, maybe we just don't have enough iron. And it's not as easy as that. It's much more complex, but that's how I kind of simplify it, is that the body is going to hold on to these heavy metals because we're kind of lacking in nutrition. And especially in today's modern world, when we have in post-industrialism, we have way more heavy metals in our soil, water, and air. And our nutrition, our food system is filled with processed food, which really low in nutrition. It might be rats. It might be high in energy, like calories,
Mhm.
but but not in like the minerals and the atoms that we actually like need in order for the enzymes to function properly. And so heavy metals that I consider like aluminum, mercury, cadmium, lead. Arsenic's kind of a metalloid, so it's kind of in the middle of nonmetals and metals, but still considered like the toxicity. And it's the inefficiency. It's that these atoms don't do as good of a job as the nutritious elements,
Mhm.
and that is their toxicity. And so what's tough is that when people do like detox methods to get rid of heavy metals, it's like, well, what if the body's not ready to get rid of them yet? And that and and it's like because you can kind of see how it's kind of that
Mhm.
relationship between the minerals and the heavy metals together. And so it's incredibly complex though. So
So what are some signs that heavy metal could be to blame for some health problems?
yeah, they can really reach everything, really, because it's coming down to the atomic level, and so everyone is going to respond differently the to their environment differently, and everyone has different heavy metal exposures, different genetic backgrounds that cause different enzymes to function differently, and so it's really complex for an individual. But we get like a lot of our heavy metals from the air, especially. That's kind of a really interesting one. And then with the off gassing, like we're talking about atoms, like way smaller than molecules. And then also processed food, like that, the way that food is processed is using machinery that is made out of these metals, and very little regulation that goes into like those kind of things, and even I believe it's hydrogenated oils. I think hydrogenated oils, the way that they are hydrogenated is through the use of nickel, I believe. And so then we end up with some nickel toxicity, and sometimes nickel can be used though. And yeah, so then what happens at the like once the heavy metals are in there, so like I said, the structure, function, and then also communication and relationship that the cells have with each other, that gets distorted. So that the cells can become rigid, and instead of like this fluid, they flexible, stable kind of cell that they're supposed to be, they can be very unstable or unstable because of their rigidity, and the heavy metals kind of act as like a splinter within the water structure of the cells. And that's what's really interesting, is that within each of our cells, there's a ton of water. That is the medium through which all the biochemical reactions are happening within all of our cells, being, it's more than 70% of water by weight we are. And so then these heavy metals can be inefficient with the enzymes. They can be disruptive to the water structure of the cells. And so then, depending on how that person is going to store those heavy metals, and use those heavy metals, that's where we're going to start to see these symptoms starting to appear. So if a lot of heavy, like aluminum and mercury, tend to be stored in the brain. There's a handful of research that's coming out about how lots of different um, disease states are because of, or at least one of the reasons are because of the heavy metal storage in the brain, not allow like, and it's coming down to the structure, function, and communication of the cells at whatever organ system is affected by for that individual person. And maybe the endocrine system too, with hormone cascades can be thrown off, and really like every single step in biochemistry is mostly movement of electrons and protons using enzymes. And if those enzymes aren't working correctly, then these pathways get really disrupted, and then the accumulation of these metals too, if the body feels like it needs to hold on. So, and in times of stress too, even psychological stress, when a person's under a lot of emotional and psychological stress, the body's going to hold on to resources. It's in a conservation mode, not only in terms of energy, but also in terms of the material that these cells need in order to function. And that includes like the heavy metals, because your cells don't like they like I mentioned before, they see it as these are just atoms that might be able to help. One analogy that is kind of funny is like, in your car engine, you have this timing belt that makes sure that all of the cylinders are firing at the right timing. And if a heavy metal would be like, well, if our timing belt's shot, then maybe we can replace our timing belt with maybe our pants belt. And you're not going to get very far. You probably won't drive very long at all. But your car is like, hey, it's still a belt, and but it's not meant to be very long, and then we end up with chronic stuff. So yeah,
Mhm.
huge implications for heavy metals. I've taught chemistry for now 10 years, and heavy metals are like the number one chemical to really pay attention in every aspect of our lives, more than any other class of chemicals that you can, because most of the other chemicals are made up of mostly carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus.
Organic.
Our body knows how to get rid of glyphosate within a couple of days of going organic. And yeah, but the heavy metals are a totally different class of elements and compounds. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned the minerals, those are like associated with nutrition, the beneficial. Like, why are they so important for heavy metal toxicity?
Yeah, so in order to like really the only way to correctly detox heavy metals is to provide your cells with the nutrients, the nutritious minerals that your body actually needs, because then it can let go. And then we kind of see that emotionally too. Like when people start on the healing path, like there is this sense of like letting go of what was old and what was in your past and and then your body can let go of those heavy metals too. The more that you
Mhm.
give your body the love and care and patience and attention that it needs to these tiny little details, the more that it's able to let go of what it doesn't need. And that kind of goes like I said, this has emotional implications too. Like I've noticed with HTMAs, I run HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis in my practice. And so what we'll often see is when people have a high amount of calcium, calcium is seen as a very rigid atom. It promotes rigidity, like bones and those kind of tissues, and so when people have really high tissue calcium, emotionally they can be very rigid as well. And so that can be uh, showing up as emotional instability, reactivity, sensitivities, and it's because of that shell, even the calcium shell can become really harmful for people. And so so then with the minerals, with mineral balancing, what I do with my practice is that we're not trying to just like see, oh, we've got high calcium, we need to lower it. Oh, we've got high this or low that. Like it's the relationships that every element has like with each other. We're trying to
Mm.
gently lower certain elements and then raise up certain ones. And it's because of the relationship. Like just because someone's low in iron doesn't mean that they need iron. It's about the relationship. It's so much more complex. Like it's hard to even give any specific recommendations because
Yeah.
everyone's unique. Like everyone has different biochemistry, and um, so that's what the HTMA really helps out with is and these heavy metals and minerals. When I look at an HTMA, I'm looking at that this is the 1% of the atoms in our body, because most of them are carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, hydrogen. And, but it's the 1%, like the minerals and heavy metals, like those ratios that determine the electrical grid of our body, the nerve signaling, like how does our brain work? It's all electrical, it's electrical conductivity going down to the quantum level, like that's what electricity is. And then how does our heart beat? It uses this electrical signaling rhythm, very rhythmic. And when we're looking at the minerals and heavy metals, we're looking at the entire electrical outline of that person and going down to the atoms that make them up. Not even just the molecules, but the atoms. And that's what's really important for people to understand is that's the next layer of biology. So
I'm gonna jump a little bit since we just talked about the HTMA. So I'm assuming that's one of the lab tests that you would recommend for someone who's, concerning about low mineral levels or heavy metal toxicity to do. Is there any other tests that you would recommend?
yeah, we do so with my practice, we do a handful of other labs to see exactly like where that specific person needs support and needs structure and needs communication like within the cells, like within the gut. Communication is one of the most important things. And so we run GI maps, I mean because we're focusing on gut health too. So what's the gut ecosystem look like at the bacterial level? So in my practice, we look at really four main levels of biology. We look at the bacterial level, at the microbiome, especially with the gut, but the microbiome's everywhere too, um, and then our mitochondria, which are
Mhm.
they're bacteria, they're just within the cell. And so then we have this bacterial consciousness, like that's within the cell, that's kind of operating and directing everything within the cell. And the fun fact about mitochondria, like we have well over a couple hundred per cell. Like we don't just have like in textbooks, it's like you only see like one or two mitochondria, but nerve cells can have over 1,000 per cell. Like this is the microbiome of a single cell. That's the mitochondria.
That's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
unbelievable. And so then the mitochondria use the minerals in order to provide the structure, function, and communication for that specific cell so that it can interact and function with all the other cells nearby because they all need to be working together. And we can't just isolate these. And that's what a lot of conventional medicine does is that we isolate into different specialties and we isolate into different organ systems. And it's like we just tend to hyper focus on that, but we're missing the big picture of like what's the whole microbiome look like? What does the whole mitochondrial system look like? What's the whole mineral system look like? And then the fourth layer that I go even deeper with my practice is looking at specifically the emotional connection in the nervous system with quantum mechanics and alignment, like with authenticity. Like, are we actually living our lives that is authentic to who we truly are? Because that's a huge part of our health. Like when we are kind of misaligned, where how we're spending our time is not exactly how we want to be spending our time. There's this misalignment that is happening, and it only grows bigger. Uh, and like until you just get fed up and you're like, screw it, I'm just gonna do my thing and live my life and without fear, shame, and guilt. And so that's the part of that we focus on and releasing fear, shame, and guilt in order to bring patience and joy and
Mhm.
confidence and creativity and all these fantastic qualities that I want everyone to have that they're within us. They're just a breath away. So
Are these the four pillar of health that
yep,
we talked
those
about?
yeah, oh yeah, those are the four pillars of health. So microbiome, mitochondria, minerals, and then quantum mechanics, which is like the nervous system, emotional alignment, and all that stuff.
I
So
love it.
yeah, it's
So,
holistic.
so if you have all the time in the world and then every ingredients on hand, what's a good mineral balancing meal that enriches your mitochondria, your bacteria, that you would like to make?
Oh, if I had unlimited resources, that would be amazing. And I wish everybody would be able to have, in the middle of winter, when light energy is minimal, that our bodies crave light energy with our food. Like that's when we have some of the most rich food in the world is during the middle of winter.
Mhm.
Summer can be very fresh food, but it tends to be a little bit lighter, um, and but it can still be very mineral rich. And so in the middle of winter, I love like we make this amazing bone broth with
Ooh.
pasture raised, grass fed, Amish raised beef that we like have seen the cows like where they come from and like we've been to the farms like where our food comes from and I think that's important for everybody to know is exactly what is the feel like where does our food actually come from and so bone broth is like truly fantastic and then you add in I wrote down some stuff like bone marrow.
Yes.
Bone marrow is unbelievable, so put that in there, like, that comes out, um so many great things that come from bone broth, just soaking the bones in the liquid and heating it up for a while, and then putting in some, like, beef, we're big fans of
Mhm.
beef, how, it is such a mineral dense food with like zinc and selenium and there's like so many and iodine and so many different kinds of minerals that are in beef products really and then we love mineral salt. There's this mineral salt that we love. I forget the name of it though, but it tastes fantastic. I've got two little kids. They are 1.5 and 4.5, and they'll just eat the salt straight up. Like those the salt is that good. Like and then so to put other things into the like slow braised grass fed beef, also adding some like liver into that too. As long as we're not dealing with some copper toxicity, liver can have a good amount of copper in there. And then turmeric, like turmeric roots, and throw some turmeric root in there. Baja Gold, that's
Aha,
the
gold.
salt. There we go. So good.
Thank you.
and then some mushrooms, some dandelion greens, like you just put that on top, throw some rosemary, some oregano,
Oh.
some thyme, like throw some herbs, like you try to get as many flavors into that as possible. And then you're like as you're eating it, it's also about your nervous system while you're eating it, because that's going to adjust how you absorb those nutrients too.
Mhm.
And so just thanking the land for providing us for this amazing food. And then I'm also a huge fan of fermented food too, providing that for the microbiome, giving them the not only boosting our number of species because it's the
Mhm.
active ferment that's actually in there. And my wife is incredible at making sourdough bread, and
And
so
beef stew.
yeah, and
Just
beef
that.
stew, and it's like, man, in the middle of winter, it is so good, and you just want more, but at the end of the meal, you're just so satisfied, and you're like, "I can't wait to have that again." So
I feel
it's
like that's like a mineral, not just mineral rich, it's satisfying. It's also like a very comforting. That's like a comfort food without like all the kind of the bad, typical bad stuff.
yeah, yeah, right. Like we can search for comfort in other kinds of foods, but that's only temporary. Like if you want long-lasting, comforting food, like
Mhm.
you give your body what it needs, and that's the minerals and the nutrients. And because what happens when our with our processed food is when you look on the back of ingredients labels, you just see like single chemical ingredients, and they might even be like minerals. But as I've mentioned throughout this, is like it's the relationships that are within, like a single apple has like trillions of different molecules in like thousands of different kinds of molecules that are there, but it's still just ingredient is just an apple. And so when we have single ingredient whole foods, it's way more chemically diverse. And then that allows for our body to absorb it even easier, rather than these processed foods that are that they um, that not only do they have heavy metal contamination because of their processing,
Mhm.
and even the pesticides and herbicides, like the chemicals that we put on our fields, those are made using heavy metals, like the chemicals themselves. And so you kind of see like toxicity at every single level of processing, from soil all the way to the plate with processed foods. And so then and then with this whole food, like you were so much more satisfied
Mhm.
in every aspect of your life. Like it is holistic, and it affects every system, every organ, and especially mental health. And so that's a big part. So in our practice, I focus on how gut health is related to mental health. Not I mean, not only related, like gut health is mental health, like
Mhm.
where our food comes from. Like it's one system. Like we're not just all these different individual systems and cells. Like we are one system within this one ecosystem of a planet and in the cosmos. And so recognizing that these whole foods are going to be way better for us, and it takes time too. Everyone has a different healing process and healing journey, and to be patient. Like you stick with it, and you will heal. Like eventually, stick to it, commit to yourself. This is what your body needs, or this kind of food. And to have this sort of analysis, like the HTMA, can be so insightful, so helpful for really a lot of people, anybody really. I ran an HTMA on my 1.5-year-old. You just cut off some hair, and it's fine, it'll grow back. And then you get a chance to see how you can provide structure and support for those
Mhm.
cells. And yeah.
I know we're a little bit over, but I have like one more question because it's
Yeah,
like
sure. Go for it.
you're already sharing so much knowledge, and then I think it's obviously, as you said, it's like so complicated, and then also it's balancing, and then also it's individual personalization. So how can someone work with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to work with me is to just DM me on Instagram. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm trying to push out some content too about all this kind of stuff, and working with clients right now. So yeah, just start a message, just shoot me a message, and we can really get things going very quickly. Like healing can happen so fast with support, with the right tools and the right support. And so that's what I provide. It's a single package that I offer, because I wanted to, like, when I was first starting my practice, people would try to do some cheaper options. They wanted to figure out like, hey, what's the smallest amount of money that I can spend for what's the biggest bang for my buck? And
Mm.
my honest opinion is the HTMA. That is the biggest bang for your buck. It's pretty cheap. It's only like $120 uh for uh for a test, and then I also charge a little bit more for the analysis.
Mhm.
And but if you really want to dive into your healing and be efficient and effective, and if some people are just like ready to just heal, they're so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're ready. Then that's when
Mhm.
we run a handful of labs to cross reference our functional lab data, and provide very specific targeted protocols and techniques. And then I don't only just like hand this paper to them like, hey, here's your plan, good luck, let me know in 2 months. Like, no, that's not what we do. I don't just hand it to you and say good luck. Like, I'll walk with you. We walk. We have weekly meetings with our clients, whether that's one on one to dive into that specific person's stuff, or whether it's group education to dive into the. Because I'm an educator, I want to help people understand why we're doing the things that we're doing, so that they can live the rest of their lives knowing that kind of stuff. Like, once you learn this kind of stuff, you can't unlearn how powerful this stuff really is. And so then I provide the group education, and so that comes with the package. So all this comes with the package: the lab testing, the one-on-one, and the group. And that's all, like, a lot of support, because that's what people want and that's what people need these days too. And as we search for cheap options, you're gonna get cheap results in some ways. So yeah,
That would be a waste of money.
yeah, and then you just bounce to the next cheap thing, and like, how many cheap things is it gonna take until we're fed up with that way of living? And so that's why I wanted to design this single thing that is comprehensive, and yeah, it's built for everybody, because it's built for your individual life. Like, that's the point, is to make it doable. Like, if somebody tells me, hey, I don't know about this sort of thing, I'm like, yeah, all right, let's take it away. Or we can make adjustments every single week if we really need to. And um, um, and then, yeah, supplementation is really helpful for a lot of people, because of our food systems and the status of them. And so, yeah, it's a fantastic experience if people really want that, and there's a lot of people that do. So that's how you can work with me. Just message me, and we can figure it all out after that. So yeah,
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything and then also staying longer than they were we planned. Until next time. Thank you so much.
yeah, I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry for going over. It's
No,
East.
no, 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 no. This is a really good information. I'm glad you were able to stay longer.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Have a good day.
All right, thanks. You too.
Bye.